Hey, it's me, TV, and today I'm going to do a video about my favorite books I've read during my school years. And this is going to include high school and my first few years of college, because I'm still in college and there's something that might change at some point. But for now, these are like my favorite books I've read throughout my school years. Don't have anything from like middle school or like elementary school because I just don't remember anything from any of those years. Don't remember anything from like the first year or two of high school either. So literally like my junior, senior year in college, like first 3 years of college. That's what this video is going to be all about. The links to all these books are located down below. I'll leave the Goodreads link so you can add them to your shelves. And from there you should be able to find them on Amazon. Or you'll at least have like a name and an author in like physical form so you can like look them up yourself. I will go ahead and tell you right now, there are textbooks in this video because I liked them, but they're all going to be at the end of the video. And at the end of the video we'll have like honorable mentions, I guess you could call them. They're not bad. I mean, I like them because that's why they're in this video. They're not like top 10, I need to read this every day. Like I would tell someone to read this because of whatever reason there might be. I'm going to start with the earliest book I had from my high school years, which is The Crucible by Arthur Miller. I think I had to read this for my junior year, maybe my senior year. And it's basically all about the witch trials in Salem, but it's like a fictional account. Basically, I think the dude that wrote it had like a family member that took place in it, or like took part in it somehow. I can't tell you why I like this book. It's been a while since I've last read it. I think most of it was just talking shit with my friends. I like the characters, but like it is a play. I'm trying to find a page where I don't have something written on it. Oh fuck, do I have not a single page? Well, it's like a play, so it's not like a normal book. And I was writing over the pages because that was part of our grade, you know, to make sure we were actually reading it. So I wrote on like every page because I was paranoid and have no idea how to like annotate, so I just kind of wrote down bullshit. So yeah. And apparently according to the back, it was written in 1953 to reflect the anti-communist hysteria inspired by Senator Joseph McCarthy's witch hunts in the United States. So there you go. Isn't that interesting? The next book I have is also from my late high school years, and I think it's the last one actually. And it's Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Like, this is one of the few classics that I feel like anyone could read because it's so fucking good. Like, I don't even know how to explain why it's good without spoiling anything, but like, whatever you think it might be about, like however good you think it might be, it's gonna be better than that. Like, it's that good. Like, I don't know anyone that hates this book because it's so fucking good. Like, fuck all the other books in high school. Just read this. Like, just read this and you'll be fine. You know, the story of Frankenstein is basically like this guy creates a monster out of like dead body parts or something. The monster comes to life. The guy runs away scared, and the monster starts killing people. Basically, the plot of the book. And then the monster, you know, comes back and talks to the man or whatever, and there's like plot shenanigans or whatever. It's really good. I really like the ending. I like some of the theories about what inspired Mary Shelley to write this book. Yeah, that's all I have about it. It's really good. If you haven't read it, you should. Like, it's so popular, you get a copy for like $2 somewhere, I bet. So go out and get it. I will also say that if you never heard a classic before, this is probably a really good place to start because the language isn't hard. Like, my class in high school was able to read it, so I'm pretty sure everyone should be able to because we were lazy as fuck. We were so lazy that we had to get the Scarlet Letter pulled because none of us got it. We were all so lost, so I had to get pulled. So I mean, we finished this one, and that means this is a good book, and it's easy to read, which is what matters the most. The next book I have is from my science fiction class I took last semester, and it is We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. It was written in like 1921, I think, and it's basically like the precursor to 1984. Like if you've read 1984 and you read this, they're basically the same exact book, but this one's better. No one will tell you that, but this one is infinitely better. Like, the protagonist is likable. The main female main character in this is actually like a decent character. He has like an actual arc. Yeah, it's actually like really good. I will tell you though that people in this book, because of the society they live in, don't have actual names. They have like a letter followed by numbers. So if you want to read this, I recommend just writing down like the name and who they are, because later in the book I did get kind of confused, but like the main character all have their own individual letter, so you can just memorize them by like the main letter in their name and you're fine. I really like this book. I think what hurt my experience in 1984, which we read after this in the semester, was that this book is basically the same exact plot. This one is so much better and done, like, just so much better. Like, fuck 1984, just read this. It's so much better. So much better. I totally forgot to tell you what the book's actually about. It's about, there's this society called One State, I think, yeah. And they're basically, the guy who's writing this book, because it's in like a journal format, he's writing this book to send with the space probe that they're going to send out to like colonize other planets. And it's basically all about, he's talking to you, but it's also like explaining his mental state, what he's going through, and like what happened to him. It goes from being very scientific at the beginning to kind of become like a little diary towards the end. And there are things that affect his personality in this book, and it's done really well. Like, you can tell that something's wrong with him by the way the text is written, and I really like that. I think that's what makes it so good, is that it's able to like convey what the character is feeling without having to directly tell you. It's really good at that. Next book I have is also from my science fiction literature class, and it is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. You've probably already read this and watched the TV series. I never watched like the Hulu series or whatever, but I read this and like it was so fucking good. I had to read like the whole thing in like two days. Like, if you read the book, you have to. It's so good. Oh my god. And if you don't know what it's about, basically conservatives took over the government and like formed their own little mini country called Glade, something. And women are forced into like three roles, basically being like a maid, a nanny, and like basically a sex toy, but like a sex toy meant for like making babies, basically, because there's an issue with like women getting pregnant because of like nuclear war, something. They can't get pregnant for some reason. It doesn't matter. And our main character is one of the girls that has to get fucked over and over again to get pregnant because she's one of the last people to have a baby. Yeah, it's kind of fucked up, but it's really good. I will say that the ending, I hate the ending. Well, I don't like the direct ending. I like the ending. The lead up to the ending is really just meh. I mean, I like the book overall. The ending, the lead up to the ending wasn't horrible. It wasn't enough to say I hate the book or I will never read it again. But it was kind of like a meh point. The book has like moments in like the present, which is like in the apocalyptic society basically, or the dystopia, I guess is a better word, and like the past when she was happy with like a husband and a kid. The past sections are really fucking boring. I almost skipped every single one of them. They were so boring. I get she was happy back then, and it's important to like contrast her life then with now, but I really hated them. They were so boring. Every time I thought that she was going to start talking about her kid and her husband again, I started like skimming, like, okay girl, start complaining about your life again, because I need more of that. It was like, I really like this book. It made me want to read more by Margaret Atwood, actually, so I just might. If you haven't read this, I think there's like a sequel or like another book in the universe coming out like the next year or two. I don't know if it's going to be any good because, you know, rarely are the books good when an author has to like jump back into a universe after a few years after writing it. This book was written like the 80s, so I don't know if Margaret can like, or Atwood, I guess should be the proper way to call her, will be able to like get back into this exact world and write it with the same quality. I hope so, because this universe is really good and interesting, and the book ends like a cliffhanger, which most sci-fi books do. They usually end like a cliffhanger in my experience. Like the ones I read from my science fiction literature class, they all ended like cliffhangers, which I hated, but meh. Next up is another book from my science fiction literature class, and that's The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. The main thing I can tell you on in this is that the main characters, the main cast, don't get introduced until like 50% of the way through or further. And at the same time, I've never liked a main cast more. Like, they are so well written, and like the main cast doesn't get introduced in this entire section. We meet most of our main cast like this last little chunk, and they are so well developed. Like, I've never loved a cast more. And there's a sequel to this book, but I don't want to read it because I'm scared someone in the cast might die, because it is like a dystopia about post-apocalyptic world. And like, I like the cast so much that when one of the characters dies towards the end, I was too scared to read on because I liked all of them so much. And like, they don't do a lot, but somehow I got so attached to every single one of them that I don't know how she did it, because I loved every single character. If they were a shithead, that was well written. It was so fucking good. Like, this should be a classic in science fiction because it's so well written. Basically, the world is in chaos because of the environment's collapsing, so it's just like present day basically. And their main characters in a gated community, and like one by one gated communities are falling down, and eventually hers falls down too. But before, shit hit the fan, our main character fell out of love with religion, and she started to develop her own philosophy called Earthseed, and she leaves her community not wanting to live among the ashes or ruins anymore, and decides to move north where there's more water and safer, to start her own little, like, I guess, center of philosophy for Earthseed. And yeah, that's the part of the book, basically. She wants to, go out and settle, like, found a place where she can preach what her beliefs and like get followers, and eventually follow through with what Earthseed wants to accomplish. What is that? Well, you just have to read it, won't you? This was written in the 80s, but it's really like young adult-ish. I would say it's like late young adult, like not early young adult, but like our main character is like 18, I think, and there does get some mature topics coming up. Like, I think a character almost gets raped, if not raped, so trigger warning for that. It doesn't happen. It only happens like once, I think. It's like implied at a few later points. Like, the book talks multiple times about how women don't want to be alone, which we all know why, but it doesn't exactly say explicitly say because rape. The next book I have on my list is Goodbye Antora by Caine. It is a memoir about the Armenian genocide because the author experienced it and survived it, and he wrote about his experiences. If you know nothing about it, this is a good introduction to it, because he goes into detail from like the very end, from the very beginning to the very end, and it's really dark. Like, it's like, there's a part where it's a genocide. So kids are starving. They have to like eat ground up bones because it's the only food they have available to them. There's nothing like dark that leads into like abuse in any way, I don't think, besides like child abuse. But it's not like, I don't remember if it's explicitly said, but they are starving, stuck in cramped quarters. If you know anything about residential schools in North America, and I don't know if they ever were in Australia or anywhere in Polynesia, no, they were in the US and Canada, you'll find a lot of things in common with this book because, fun fact, because America was one of the first countries to have to deal with indigenous people, a lot of the practices we used to help deal with, kill them, were later used when people found Australia and all of the Polynesian islands, and Melanesian, Micronesian. So you'll find a lot of things about how to you'll find a lot of things in common with how they dealt with indigenous people here, as in this book. So yeah, it gets really fucking dark. If you don't know anything about residential schools, they were dark as shit, corrupt places. The same thing happened in the Armenian genocide. This isn't a long book. It's less than 200 pages, and there are pictures in the back of like the author when he was alive, and I think when his family was all happy and whole and other stuff. So yeah, I would tell you more about what it's about, but like, it's all like, it's a memoir, so if I tell you anything's gonna spoil it. Basically, he's a kid and he's going through the Armenian genocide. It's sad and a rough time. That's all I can really tell you. The next book I have to talk about was from my Nebraska history class, which I know sounds really boring, but the teacher's really good, so it was interesting to me. And it is Once Upon a Town by Bob Greene. And basically it's a nonfiction account of a town during World War II that was helping to like entertain soldiers when they were on their stop. Which I know sounds really boring, but it's really like heartwarming and sweet. And like you need to have like a happy, good feeling book to read. Read this, it's so happy. And like basically the way this town started doing this to like entertain and like soldiers or whatever was that they were getting ready to like give food and like entertain their soldiers coming back. The trains got mixed up and there was another group, and the group was so happy that they kept doing it for every round of soldiers that kept on coming through. And eventually like most of Nebraska started like chipping in to like help do this stuff, and that's like this one town, and it's so fucking happy. Like just thinking about it makes me want to cry because it's so cute and happy. And I don't know if there are pictures in here. It says there are pictures in here, but oh yeah, there we go. Like there are some pictures in here. But yeah, it's so happy. It's a good feel book. Like I didn't hate reading this. It was so good. I liked it. I will go ahead and read you a part of the back because it implies the cute factor. Every day of the year, every day of the war, the canteen, staffed and funded entirely by local volunteers, was open from 5 a.m. until the last troop train of the day pulled away after midnight. Astonishingly, this remote plains community of only 12,000 people provided welcoming words, friendship, and baskets of food and treats to more than 6 million GIs by the time the war ended. Like, that's so fucking cute and sweet. And read it, it's so cute. Oh my god. So now I'm gonna do the honorable mention section. These are books that I like, but wouldn't go on my exact favorites. And mostly I want to like sneak them into the video, was having like a top 10. So I will put the video section before the textbook section because while I do love the textbooks, I know most people won't like them. So I'll put them at the end. You know, these are like the last like more easy reading, I guess you could call them, before we hit actual textbooks. So yeah. The first honorable mention I have is from my freshman year of high school, and I don't have a copy of it because it's Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. Yeah, I know I can't say that, but I'm not gonna lie. I only like it because the few times I had to read it throughout high school and middle school, I had the same part, which was Father Capulet, and I really liked that part because he had enough words that I never had to take on more parts. But he only had like one monologue, and then he was done after that. So I had one part, and he rarely talked. So I was all for that. The next book I have is from my Native American history class, I think it was called, and it is Future Home of the Living God by Louise Erdrich. It's about this woman who goes to get in contact with her Native American family, side of her family, because she was adopted out. And when she goes back and comes back, you know, the world is starting to like fall apart. Like evolution is getting all fucked up. Animals are evolving rapidly. Pregnant women are like not being able to carry to term, or their babies aren't being born alive, and she's pregnant. So she becomes a wanted woman. You know, shit hits the fan. And this is an honorable mention instead of like in the list because the last like 30 pages are such bullshit. Like the story's going out this one direction, like the last like 20 pages go like I don't even know what was going on. Like it feels like a forced ending. Like I love the entire book up until the last like 20 or 30 pages. Like those last 20-30 pages are like the worst part of the book. They're so fucking bad. I hate them so much. Like it's the actual ending and it's such bullshit, and I hate it so much. Other book is really good, and the main author is from one of the indigenous nations. I don't remember which one, and I feel bad for not knowing. But I know she lives in Minneapolis, and she owns a small independent bookstore. So there you go. The next book I have is also from my Native American history class, and it is From the Deep Woods to Civilization by Charles A. Eastman. Eastman was also a Native American. He was a Sioux, I think. I don't remember what the back says. And basically the book chronicles his life from, I think, his early teenage years to his late adulthood, because the author, Eastman, he wrote books about each part of his life. So that's really interesting. I've only read this one, and I really liked it. I mean, it talks about his experiences in residential schools. It's not the best because have to understand they were really bad. There's a lot of trauma going on, so if he was treated badly, he's not going to talk about it. So if you read this and think that, residential schools were great, they weren't. Either he just got lucky, or he was so traumatic that they just didn't want to talk about it anymore. I have to say that because, I have to. It's really short. It's like less than 200 pages, and the text is like really small. Like you could read this in like a day if you really wanted to. There are pictures, like you saw. Let me find him. That's his wife, I think. So yeah, I like this book, but it's an honorable mention because I didn't like it that much. Like I've read other memoirs about like Native Americans being disappeared, and this one wasn't exactly my favorite. So yeah, it's an honorable mention. Now we're into textbook category. These textbooks were good because they're on this list, so like they weren't boring. I enjoyed them. They are all pretty history based, so fair warning if you don't like history, most of these books probably won't like look good, sound interesting to you. The first book I have is from my Native American history class again, and it is the Public Revolt of 1680 by Andrew L. Knott, who is not a direct account. He's writing about it in like the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, some point in their recent modern times. And it basically chronicles a point in time when the Pueblo kicked the Spanish's ass for a second and they all fled. And it talks about how the Spanish were treating the Pueblo nations at that point in time, how they rebelled, and how the Spanish came back. Because we know the Spanish conquered that area, and they were there when the U.S. eventually took their territory away. Because it deals with colonization, there are some darker parts. I don't think it goes into too much detail. It's been like a year since I read this, so I might be wrong. But it deals with like colonization, so it's not really a happy light story. That's all fun and games, So interesting to know more about the colonization of like New Mexico and Arizona. That's where the Pueblo nations kind of are, I'm pretty sure. But you also probably want to hear about the Spanish running away scared and crying. They do run away so like scared little babies, and I really like that part. The next book I have is from my Modern Middle East class I had to take, I think, a year or two ago, and it is Destiny Disrupted by Tamim Ansari. And basically this book is a chronicle from like Muslim history through Muslim eyes, and it's talking about directly from other Muslims and how they experienced what world history was going on and how that affected them directly. It chronicles from like the foundings of Islam to like the founding of Israel. I'm pretty sure maybe like actually I don't know, it ends on 2001 and like 9/11 if you're American. If you're not American, the date probably means nothing to you, but it ends on 9/11. My one complaint is that the last chapter is basically like 1930 to like modern times, so the last chapter is really rushed, but everything else feels like a pretty solid historical build-up. It is kind of chunky at over 300 pages, but it's a history book, and it gives you a pretty good overall view of what history for Muslims was like. It gives you a pretty good overview of like the early parts of Islam too. So if you're interested in learning more about that, check out this book. The last book I have to offer is probably the biggest one, and it's from my Nebraska history class, and it's our official textbook we use for the entire course, and it is Nebraska in Illustrated History by Erdrich C. Loop. And I know this book is really fucking boring, but the chapters are basically like 1 page long. They have a lot of pictures. Like, let me skip. So it's first Nebraskans. That's all the text for page 1. That's the whole chapter in text form. Everything else after that is pictures. So every chapter is like, so it was easy reading, and like there's a lot of pictures in here, as you could probably guess. And it's really interesting to like see how Nebraska grew as a state. I will admit that most reasons are probably like this is because my professor really liked teaching the course. That always makes the class more interesting. So I do advise for it because of that. The one issue I have with it is that it doesn't talk about the native peoples of Nebraska a whole lot. Kind of like glazed over them ever so much. So that's my one issue. But overall, if looking for an overall history of Nebraska, this book. Like, this book is so good about Nebraska history. I wish there was like a book like this for every state because this covers so much ground and does it so well. It was great. That's my top 10 favorite books I've read during my school years. Thank you for watching.